Here's how the Loki finale will affect the future of the MCU. 6 episodes, countless theories, and 0 jet skis later, the first season of Loki has come to an end and fulfilled its glorious purpose of showing us a brand new side of Marvel's God of Mischief. While we broke down every last Easter egg and hidden detail in For All Time Always in yesterday's video, which I will link for you in the description below, we're still reeling from the explosive fallout of the season finale. And as anyone who watched the episode can tell you, Loki just changed the future of the Marvel Cinematic Universe as we know it. And today we're going to break down how exactly the Loki finale will affect the MCU moving forward, from animated series like What If to movies like Spider-Man No Way Home, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, and even Black Panther Wakanda Forever. We're going to encompass a vast array of projects coming down the pipeline and examine how Loki could affect them moving forward. Now obviously to talk about this stuff we need to spoil what happens in Loki's finale. So if you haven't seen that episode yet, leave now before you're just as confused as Mobius is.
What? What'd you say?
Folks, the Multiverse of Madness is officially open for business. Our Kang Watch has both ended and begun in earnest, or I guess in the case of episode 6, our Immortus observance if you're feeling particularly pedantic.
Same person.
And as we learn in the Loki season 1 finale, he who remains is the true power behind the Time Variance Authority, claiming to have pulled Loki and Sylvie's strings all along.
I paved the road.
Played by Jonathan Majors, He Who Remains is a variant of Nathaniel Richards, the 31st century scholar and descendant of the Fantastic Four's Reed Richards, who discovered the multiverse and is most commonly known in the comics as Kang the Conqueror. This particular variant of He Who Remains is likely Immortus, the variant of Kang that essentially ensures that all other Kang variants out there will wind up becoming him to ensure that he always wins. And that's precisely why, when he's faced with the prospect of being turned into He Who's in Pains by Sylvie's love dagger, he scoffs with a quip about reincarnation and a cheeky
"See you soon."
As the episode ends, we see the formation of the multiverse, and Loki L1130 is there in a brand new timeline where there seemingly isn't a God of Mischief. When he tries to explain what exactly He Who Remains did to Mobius and Hunter B-15, they have no idea who Loki is, and that makes Mobius and Loki's goodbye hug in episode 5 that much more tragic. And to make matters even worse, the Timekeeper statue in the TVA lobby has been replaced by a massive statue of Kang the Conqueror in his comic book regalia. So this means the MCU as we knew it is now fundamentally different. There are multiple branch timelines and parallel realities existing on top of one another, like in the days leading up to the multiversal war. While this finale will have far-reaching effects in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, I am fairly confident it won't meaningfully affect the movies Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings or the Eternals. Likewise, it probably won't mess with the Disney Plus series Hawkeye, Ms. Marvel, Moon Knight, and She-Hulk either. If it does, it's probably going to be relegated to a subtle moment here or there, or maybe a post-credit scene setting the stage for other MCU projects coming up next. But the first and most obvious MCU entry that Loki will affect is actually What If. The very premise of this animated series looks to the multiverse to see what would happen if certain facts we know to be true about the MCU were fundamentally different. As Kyle Anderson wrote on Nerdist, What If the What If series will show us now canonical versions of events that exist because of Sylvie killing He Who until recently remained. Now these won't affect the core MCU as we understand it, but it's nice to think that they won't be so fantastical as to not matter at all thanks to this now extant multiverse. Now the first entry upon which this will have a major impact on characters we know and love moving forward though is Spider-Man No Way Home. And by this point, if you've managed to avoid the seemingly never-ending stream of rumors and casting announcements about Spider-Man No Way Home, then you are likely on a very different and deeply unsacred timeline from the rest of us. And as suspected, No Way Home could have an interesting dual meaning here. Not only is Peter Parker on the run after Mysterio doxed him on J. Jonah Jameson's radio show in Spider-Man Far From Home, but his world is about to become merged with the Spider-Verse.
I'm sorry, you're saying there's a multiverse?
Yes, Peter. Yes, we are. Perhaps Peter Parker has no way home because his home is fundamentally altered. Either his timeline is permanently altered, his universe is merging with the ones from the Raimi-verse and the Amazing Spider-Man movies, or maybe these universes are colliding, kind of like in the lead up to 2015's Secret Wars. And considering that Doctor Strange plays a role in this film, it'll be a perfect segue for the Sorcerer Supreme to realize that he was caught with his Eye of Agamotto closed. Whether this will trap Spider-Man in the SPUMC, the Sony Pictures universe of Marvel characters, or make films like Venom, Let There Be Carnage, Morbius, and Kraven part of the MCU though, that remains to be seen. But if so, let me be the first to say,
Hey, I'm sorry about Venom.
But speaking of Doctor Strange, let's talk about the Sorcerer Supreme sequel, which we know will be dealing with the multiverse. It's right there in the title. It's going to be the most direct way we address the multiverse since Loki. The film will include Wanda Maximoff, who we now know likely heard her children's voices at the end of WandaVision at the moment where the multiverse was created in Loki. The prevailing theory is that given Wanda's status as a Nexus being in the comics, hinted at through her immense power in the MCU and that one commercial on WandaVision, a malevolent force is going to try to harness her abilities and maybe use the Darkhold to gain dominion over the multiverse, leading Doctor Strange to have to step up and save the day. While I don't think that Doctor Strange is going to put an end to the multiverse in this movie, I do think he's going to have to team up with powerful people from across realities like America Chavez, who we know plays a part in this film. And for those who don't know, America Chavez first appeared in 2011's Vengeance #1, and she has a wide range of superhuman abilities, including the ability to create portals that let her travel through the multiverse, which seems pretty handy. Now, given that Loki is rumored to be in this movie as well, according to The Hollywood Reporter, there is a chance we could see some Kang variants in this film too. But mostly, I think the God of Mischief will help brief the Sorcerer Supreme on what's actually happening here and set the stage for what's to come. A full-on Kang-pocalypse in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Before we get to Quantumania though, let's take a peek at a trio of movies that are coming out between Multiverse of Madness and Quantumania: Thor: Love and Thunder, Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, and The Marvels. Now, I have a suspicion that Thor: Love and Thunder will be largely self-contained for the duration of its story because, let's be honest, in this timeline, Loki died in Avengers: Infinity War. But maybe after the events of Loki, Matt Damon actually will be the MCU's God of Mischief in Love and Thunder rather than just an actor in this Asgardian theater troupe. Although, with that said, considering Thor, Jane Foster, and the Warriors 3 have a comic book history with He Who Remains, anything is possible. So we'll definitely be Kang-watching something fierce in between all of Gore's god butchering. As for Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, you might want to go ahead and put on your vibranium foil hat because we're going to get weird here. What if the way they explain T'Challa's absence in this film without addressing Chadwick Boseman's tragic death in real life is that the events of Loki changed the timeline? What if this is a world where T'Challa does not exist? Now, Shuri seems like the logical and canonical choice to become Black Panther as we move forward, based on both what we've seen in the comics and on the big screen. And while Atlantis has been teased in Iron Man 2 and seemingly alluded to in Avengers Endgame and the Eternals trailer, it's rumored to play a big part in Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, introducing us to characters like Namor the Submariner. And as anyone who's read the comics can tell you, Wakanda and Atlantis don't have the friendliest history together. But this could be a reality where we don't have T'Challa, but instead have a long-standing rivalry between the most advanced nation on land and the most advanced nation under the ocean, potentially with disastrous consequences for both. Moving on, we come to The Marvels, the sequel to Captain Marvel that will involve Carol Danvers, Ms. Marvel, Kamala Khan, and likely the newly superpowered Monica Rambeau, who was summoned to space at the very end of WandaVision. And while this film will likely lead us into the events of the Secret Invasion Disney Plus series, I think it's decidedly going to be more cosmic in scope than many other MCU entries, so I could see them entirely sidestepping the multiverse of it all. Or maybe the Skrulls who wind up leading the Secret Invasion appear in this movie from another reality where they're just as nefarious as their comic book counterparts. Now, it would certainly help explain how they go from erstwhile allies in the 1990s in Captain Marvel to a global threat to our society in the upcoming Secret Invasion series. Last but not least, we come to Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. It's a movie that'll find Scott Lang and Hope Van Dyne presumably venturing into the quantum realm, and there they might visit Chronopolis, which is Kang's kingdom that exists outside of time and space, different than the Citadel at the end of time. This one was actually teased previously during Ant-Man and the Wasp. Now, this movie's gonna be a showcase for Jonathan Majors to show off his acting chops as he transforms into countless variants of Kang. But whether this is more multiplicity or the Rick and Morty decoy episode remains to be seen. One thing's for certain, we'd better get a scene of the Council of Cross-Time Kangs in this movie so we can get hundreds of Jonathan Majors in one place, followed by Luis explaining just what the heck happened to get us to this point.
I'm getting there.
You put a dime in them, you gotta let the whole song play out.
So who will save the day in Quantumania? Well, Baskin-Robbins, always an option, but my crackpot theory is that we could see the introduction of the Fantastic Four in this film. What if they wind up getting their superpowers from exposure to quantum energy like Janet Van Dyne rather than cosmic rays like in the comics? Now, we may have already seen their ship during the intergalactic opening of the Loki finale, but that does seem like a real Reed Richards, which is to say, a stretch. Far likelier is that Lang and the gang will need to work alongside another familiar face who left the Loki finale with an almost singular focus on getting answers and vengeance in equal measure, and that is Ravonna Renslayer. In the comics, she winds up ruling Chronopolis in Kang's stead, and she's a real force to be reckoned with. I mean, she even took over the Avengers at one point. Plus, having her go full Terminatrix like in the comics, that'd be a great way to advance her storyline in the wake of her shocking departure in the Loki finale. With all of that said, one thing is for certain. After the Loki finale, nothing in the MCU is going to be the same.
What?
Whether our predictions come true or not, only Miss Minutes knows for certain.
Hey y'all!
In the meantime, though, we've got plenty of other MCU deep dives, theories, and explainers just waiting for you on Nerdist.com. But for now, tell us, what do you think of the Loki finale? What do you think of our theories here? And how do you think this will affect the MCU moving forward?
I like it.
Let us know in the comments below, and for the latest and greatest in the world of pop culture, stay tuned to Nerdist.com.